following broadcast is brought to you by A.C.T, Agora Center of Thought. Here only on the Voluntary Virtues Network. Every Saturday, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us on the dark side of radio. Agora, Anarchy, Action. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Agora Underground. It is Sunday, September 6, 2014. We are live, as you know, every Saturday here on the Voluntary Virtues Network. And this is the Agora Underground, ladies and gentlemen. I am your co-host, Comrade Dick, sitting with your usual co-host, my right-hand man here for the Agora Underground.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Darian here.
Yes, just holding it down. Today was a great day. Took to the streets as all agorists and anarchists should have. And good anarchists, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a solemn and sort of very reflectionary show today. You know, most shows are pretty reflective and serious in the sense that, of course, we're dealing with the state, the biggest initiator of violence and coercion and theft and just all-out destruction and mayhem. But you know, this affects lives that were instantaneously slaughtered on TV, on live television, and many of us saw it happen. And I am talking of course, the infamous September 11th, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center, Twin Towers and complex buildings, and it was quite a horrific event. So, you know, just wanting to let all listeners know that we are doing this out of respect for the victims, for the lives slaughtered in that day. We are doing it to speak up, and because we have legitimate questions based on reason and fact, and we were trying to do honor and bring justice and what's right? Bring definitely reparations. You know, the guilty should be held accountable for such atrocities, and that is our reasoning for the show. And as usual, we are anarchists and we are capitalists, and we're going to bring about all of this from an objectivist point of view. You know, we're not going to rely on, you know, emotional arguments, and we're not going to rely on just hearsay. So, starting it off, we figure we'd outline it with a couple of things just personally that, you know, came to mind that have to do, you know, prior to the event, during, and after, that are really questionable tidbits of information that are unsettling, to say the least. And, you know, these just reiterating that this is just a couple of the specks in the sea of information out there. There are literally thousands of tidbits of information that are very suspicious about the events of this day. So first thing to ask ourselves is, what's the deal with Al-Qaeda? Where'd they come from? Who funded them? What's their history? What's their background? Pretty well-known fact that the U.S. government funded, trained, and essentially made Al-Qaeda what it is today. It was in response to the aggression initiated by Russia in Afghanistan, trying to expand their governmental geopolitical control into the Middle East. And, of course, the United States did not find that beneficial for their imperialistic pursuits. So they went on to train Wahhabi radical Islamicists to fight these, the godless communists, the godless communists that don't believe in Allah. And this was quite a good cover. Actually, you should YouTube Hillary Clinton actually admitting this before a congressional testimony. Hillary Clinton, we created Al-Qaeda, on YouTube. Then you have the first World Trade Center attacks. For those of us that are a little bit older, we'll remember back in 1993 when a van parked outside the World Trade Center went off. I don't know exactly whether it was exactly outside or even in the parking garage underneath the World Trade Center itself. But interesting thing about this event is that the FBI was caught on audio tape essentially providing all the materials, encouraging the terrorists to commit the act. Got busted. And of course, and this time around, initially it didn't go off, and eventually, shortly after a bomb went off. But one of the terrorists backed out essentially initially, and the FBI has been caught doing this. I mean, recently, a couple of years ago, if you remember, just do a cursory research on the fact that the FBI got busted back in '06. Some documents were released that back in '06, the FBI was trying to incite radical Islamic terrorism in the United States by encouraging informants that were hanging out with Muslims at their mosques or whatnot to talk about jihad and to plan, acts of terrorism. Uh, Another thing that is really interesting and peculiar and eerie is this think tank, Project for a New American Century, PNAC,
Hmm.
established in 1997. William Crystal, interesting figure, Robert Kagan, and these guys were a think tank, American think tank, based upon the premise of them trying to find the best strategy for the U.S. to remain an imperial force, the number one imperial force for the next century, for the next 100 years. Hence, Project for a New American Century, the title. But they have a quote in their report that was released, a particular report out of many, of course. They're a think tank. And the interesting thing about think tanks, it's very similar to Catholic orders in the sense that you just have a whole bunch, and they're all affecting law or whatnot. But it's interesting. It's just um, you think legislators make the laws, but no. These think tanks have laws written beforehand, which the legislators just simply pass. None of them actually read the bills or the laws that they're passing. But this organization came up with a study that was released a year before September 11th, which said that in order to justify the military interventionism into the Middle East and justify endless wars, which would build up the empire in the U.S. empire in the Middle East, we would need some kind of, and I quote here, a Pearl Harbor type of event, end quote.
Hmm.
And this was released a year before September 11th in order to justify wars. That one was pretty eye-opening when I came across that one in my research. And I personally came across 9/11 truth and the 9/11 exposed movement and all this, exposing what really happened, the state-funded terrorist event through We Are Change and through, I'll admit it, I'm not ashamed, Infowars, Alex Jones, right?
Big
I,
AJ.
the big AJ. But I don't personally, I've moved on. I'm on economics, talking about anarchy now. I'm philosophically looking at history and historicism and XXXYZ, and so on and so forth. But as far as the ABCs go, you know, it gets you thinking. It gets you thinking, and a lot of Alex Jones's and the Infowars information concerning September 11th and terrorist attacks at large are very much crucial in this, at least as gathering it. A good hub for gathering it on that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting them. There's literally dozens and dozens of organizations that are promoting investigating 9/11 for all these reasons. Digressing a little bit here, but other things that we remember from you know doing our research and finding out different things and reading articles is that a couple months prior to the attacks, the American Airlines actually banned carrying concealed weapons for the pilots. Beforehand, the pilots could take their weapons on board with them. Which is pretty legit when you think about it. I mean, they're in charge of this huge vessel which is carrying hundreds of lives on it. You should at least be able to carry the gun. I mean, it seems like a logical thing. If he's the captain, right, captain of the ship, he's got his life. He puts his life before the rest of his cargo, right, before the rest of his
Yeah, yeah.
passengers. If he can't defend his passengers, what is he supposed to do? But it's interesting that American Airlines basically, pulled back that privilege that the that right that the pilots had to bring on their concealed weapon. Also, bomb sniffing dogs were reportedly pulled out a couple days before September 11th. This is all these tidbits usually have multiple sources. This one in particular has one. It's from Source Newsday, but it's still straight talk from employees there, and that's very interesting. Bomb sniffing dogs being pulled out days before September 11th. They're the security there being at lower levels at that time. Um, what else? What else we got here? Um, we're in San Antonio here.
Hmm.
We got that one base off 90. What was it? Lackland, right?
Yes, sir.
Lackland Air Force Base. Apparently, one of or two, a couple of the hijackers were trained at Lackland Air Force Base. The guys that supposedly flew the bomb or the planes into the flew the planes as bombs into the buildings here at Lackland Air Force Base here in San Antonio and bases around the U.S. I mean, how coincidental is that, right? You're training, the government is training the flight, the people that can, supposedly did the hijackings and did the flights, were able to fly the planes into the buildings and the Pentagon and whatnot. I mean, and if you recall, I mean, even Michael Moore, who is not a 9/11 truther, mind you, came out with this documentary Fahrenheit 9/11, which a lot of people scrutinize, but I mean, everything in there is verifiable. He just doesn't go far enough. But he pointed out how essentially the as far as the trained at bases, the flyers trained at bases, he interviewed the people, the instructors that trained these guys, these Arabs, terrorists supposedly, and they said that they were horrible pilots. They couldn't even land a little propeller plane, single engine plane on their own, like without assistance. How could they fly, professionally, perfectly, achieving crazy maneuvers in the air? I mean, when they can't even properly fly little one engine planes, it just doesn't make sense to me. And that's all admitted, openly admitted. I mean, it just takes a couple of searches on the web. And yeah, I know you don't trust everything on the internet. Okay, cool, great. Look up videos. Look at congressional testimony. Look at the actual testimony of the flight instructors. What's their motive behind lying? What? Oh, they work for ISIS too? Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, great. Well, guess what? They're at U.S. bases, so I don't know. It just bothers me. I'm starting to get a little ticked off here. Um, so if I start ranting, like getting into my roots, getting that AJ out. But put options, ladies and gentlemen. Wall Street, people on Wall Street were making money. People that had some shares for American Airlines put out some put options where you're betting that the shares are going to drop. I'm sorry, I should probably get some water here or something. But 80%. It was 80% people putting in put options versus putting in buying options, in options. 80% when usually statistically they say it's about give or take half and half. That's just, I mean, no one really knows when the stock's going to drop. No one really knows when it's going to shoot up. Hence, most people would go one way, and the other half of the people would go the other way. Flipping a coin. But when you have 80% of people putting out put options, you got some insider trader knowledge there. Something's coming. You might not know exactly what. I'm not saying all these people knew exactly what scenario was going to happen, but definitely they knew, and not all of them that put options. We know at least 50%. If it's half and half all the time, then the half that we're going to put options in anyway did anyway unknowingly. So that gives us about 30% margin where it's questionable. 30% people went against the statistics, the regular percentage that usually happens. And yeah, prices of the stock fell 39% of American Airlines.
Well, he got that good contract, collecting that insurance money.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting to that for sure, dude. Um, so as far as things that we came off with the top of our head. I mean, there are literally dozens and dozens of other marvelous shocking points. I mean, astounding, right? I mean, astounding. And if these aren't astounding enough. I mean, there's literally dozens and dozens of other ones of prior. This is all prior to the attacks of things that are very very iffy. I mean, getting rid of bomb sniffing dogs, no more concealed weapon for pilots, commercial pilots. Uh, you know, the prior FBI, prior in 1993, getting audio tape recorded. I mean, the put options. I mean, these things definitely point to something, right? And hey, just like economics, just like the market, I don't know all the answers, right? I'm not all knowing. I'm sorry, I don't work for the Department of Justice. I'm sorry, I don't work for the government and the FBI. I don't have all the answers to the universe, right? So I'm not claiming that I know exactly what happened that day, but I am asking questions on these particular things personally, and I could make the list longer, but these are just things that obviously are more passionate because they stuck with me through all these years. I haven't reviewed my 9/11 information in a while, and just I was earlier just kind of like getting notes together here, trying to get as much as I remembered, and these were definitely the biggest ones. And I think at least from for me personally, from my perspective of how I see the world, these things made a huge difference to my my understanding of what happened on September 11th. What 13 years ago? This is the 13th anniversary. We'll have some footage from 9/11, some interesting stuff here in San Antonio. We're gonna definitely get things voiced and get the truth out there to the people that need to hear it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the day of the attacks, right? We had the insider trading literally the night before. People are putting in put options, and then the day of the attack happens. Couple of things that are intriguing about the day of the attack. You have the terror drills, the war games that were being played by NORAD, our National Air Defense. Interestingly enough, they were actually doing terror drills where the scenarios involved some of the very similar scenarios that we experienced that day. Planes getting hijacked, passenger planes getting hijacked, heading for New York, heading for the Pentagon. Um, it's just ridiculous. Now, maybe as far as that point, take my mind for at least coming up with this. And hey, I'm human and liable to make mistakes, but I think I got that tidbit of information confused. They were running drills, the war games, and those weren't the exact scenario, but the exact scenario is what I got confused at. The exact scenario had been written and pre-tested beforehand. That was a scenario that had been thought of the government, as a possible scenario. I think that now that day, now I remember that day they were having war games, further out from the area, which actually placed NORAD at a disadvantage. It took them a while to get the fighter jets over there and I guess get on proper procedures, military procedures. Obviously, you're this military, and if you're about to get attacked, if you're under attack, you have proper defense procedures. These procedures were inhibited because of these war games that were going on. Um, you have the fact that William Rodriguez, one of the survivors pulled out of the rubble. His personal testimony of one of the workers at the World Trade Center, at particularly the Twin Towers, how he there was explosions and bomb sounds and shaking and like fire and smoke. I mean, just a bunch of stuff. People coming out burned from the basement, and this is
Then this is before the towers even collapsed and fell. And we already got explosions, reported at the basement level before the first plane hit. I mean, signs are all there. It's pretty self-evident.
Yeah, I mean that's really weird, and this is firsthand eye testimony from again, check him out, William Rodriguez. Check him out on YouTube. His testimony is incredible. Um, I don't know exactly what number he was. There was only 18. I thought there was 20 earlier, and I checked it up, and there's only 18 individuals that were pulled from the rubble that were still alive when they were pulled out, and he was one of them. I forget exactly which one he was, but he was one of them, and he was in the basement. He was a worker there. It's just a crazy story. I mean, and to survive, right? To survive all that rubble coming down on you. I mean, that's just amazing. Um, the universe, the higher powers, God, definitely wanted that guy to be able to tell his story. Um, Seems like right. You got Dick Cheney, vice president at the time. For the first time in history, vice president was in charge of NORAD, our air defense, our national air defense. Interesting enough, Dick Cheney is also a member of the PNAC, Plan for a New American Century. That think tank, heavily associated with him. There's congressional testimony of Norman Mineta. He is forget which you know associate some basic government organization that he's the head of. He was a secretary of something. Um, but basically, this guy Norman Mineta giving congressional testimony, and you can again YouTube this as well, where he's talking about Dick Cheney talking, giving the order to that that the order still stands. As the order still stands, some apparently some guy kept coming into the room where Dick Cheney and his assistant were at, and kept asking the vice president, "Does the order still stand? Does the order still stand? The plane is 50 miles out. Does the order still stand? The plane's 30 miles out. Does the order still stand? The plane's 10 miles out." Eventually, Dick Cheney ended up asking, "Well, of course they still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?" And they were asking Dick Cheney if the order still stood because he's in charge of NORAD, and the orders were to stand down. Do the orders still stand to stand down? To refuse, again, military protocol is to shoot down any plane that's coming towards the Pentagon, right? Towards the military hub of the strongest military in the world. I mean, come on now. Really? Really? So, what was that golfer who got off course, after 9/11 and jets were up there within a matter of 5 minutes? I mean, and these planes were flying around for hours, literally over 2 hours, I believe, really close to it, off course, and no jets scrambled. But so the orders were to stand down. The air defense were to stand down. I mean, that's pretty big deal there. What do you think about the how the twin towers fell, Darian? How do you feel about that? Like,
Well, if if you're just as curious as I am on the how they actually fell, I mean, it looked very set up. You know what I mean? I've never seen a building collapse like that with two planes hitting it. I mean, I expected one of the towers, just to snap and maybe fall over,
like
and
a tree or something.
yeah, like a tree and break, or but no, like these buildings got leveled. The entire building's just gone, and it's kind of tells me that, okay, well, this isn't right, because there's just no way with how quick they were leveled, with how fast it went. Like there's just no way it just happened. No way. And I think anybody who believes otherwise, there's no way that it was an inside job. I asked them to take a closer look at the video and see how orchestrated this chaos was.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely, Darian. Yeah. And the very good observation, bro. I mean, Engineers made that observation. Architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. They made the observation that the twin towers fell, straight down, symmetrically at nearly free fall speed. This would not be the case if you have a building struck with a plane. Obviously, the side and one of the twin towers was hit more on the side than the other one. It would have tipped over. It's like chopping down a tree, right? You don't chop down a tree and all of a sudden it just collapses in on itself and pulverizes into nothing at free fall speed. No, it leans over and tips over. Timber, right? So the fact that the twin towers fell at free fall speed, nearly free fall speed, I think it took them 11 seconds or roughly to from beginning of collapse to end for the amount of feet that that for the height that they were. That was nearly free fall speed, the rate of gravity and everything, the rate of free fall. So, I mean, the implications of that are pretty astounding. It doesn't take a genius to watch side by side, the footage of buildings getting demolished, imploded, and watching the twin towers fall. Um, Even though some people argue that it was more of an explosion with the twin towers, they kind of came outward and dust went everywhere and whatnot. So it was slightly different, but still very very similar. Um, and you have the fact that the dust clouds are just going everywhere. I mean, you remember that it was like a movie, right?
Yeah.
It was
It,
just amazing, dude.
yeah, it was like something Tom Clancy's work or something.
Right? Yeah, great propaganda for the state apparatus. Right? We were attacked from look at all the damage these foreigners did. We got to go expand expand the empire.
Now we got to go give a little bit of democracy.
Yep. But I mean, these dust clouds. I mean, 20 stories high. Higher. I don't even. It was just huge. I mean, people running from the dust. Guys, I mean, concrete does not pulverize into nanoparticles, dust particles that are floating around because of jet fuel. Right? You can light a piece of concrete on fire all you want, throw as much oil and gasoline as you want on it, and jet fuel, kerosene or whatever, but it ain't gonna freaking turn to dust. Like, how does that even make sense? I don't know. But I mean, obviously, it's pretty obvious that a lot of concrete was pulverized, and it seems like friction from the collapse wasn't enough to really cause that. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a specialist. I don't have a degree on the wall. I didn't get $100,000 in a debt, so I guess I have no authority on this. But just watching the footage, I mean, come on now, watch the footage yourself of the collapse of the twin towers. It's pretty self-evident, like you were saying, Darian. Um, so yeah, I mean, you got the Israelis. Look that
Oh
up.
snap!
You got the Israelis filming and dancing the whole event at this apartment complex. A little bit out of Manhattan Square. Come on, I mean, I mean, how crazy is that? I mean, what are you supposed to even say? I mean, to say to that, they got busted, and this was on national news, and the government just let them go. I mean, they were Israeli citizens, and it's like, oh, you're Israelis, okay, go back to Israel then, bye. And they went back to Israel, and then they even got interviewed on Israeli TV. They're like, oh yeah, we're there, blah blah blah, and like they were just geeking out. There's testimony of the lady that called the cops, on them. She was just she couldn't get it. She can see the towers off in the distance, smoking and just getting ready to collapse, and you have all these foreign Israelis just jumping around, celebrating like it's Yom Kippur or something, and just filming the whole event. I mean, how obvious is that? Come on now. I mean, and how? What is it? I mean, no, key bono, right? Who stands to gain, right? Who stands to gain? Key bono. I mean, this has helped the interest of Israel a lot. So the September 11 attacks. It's helped the interest of the United States government a lot.
Well, that would explain why we have Israeli flags at the local 9/11 memorial here in San Antonio.
Oh, good point, man. We have this church here off one of our highways over by Lackland Air Force Base, actually, the same Air Force Base that trained one of these hijackers, crazy guys. Well, we're a highly military town, and got a lot of grunts running around, and these guys decide to make a monumental Masonic monument to their, their sacrifice, their blood sacrifice, their state funded event, this false flag, and covered it with Masonic symbolism, and just loaded up with Israeli flags everywhere, international flags, but mostly Israeli flags and American flags. They're Zionist Christian church. So again, you see this combination of Jewish, Israeli, and by Jewish, of course, we mean Israeli, the country of Israel, right? The political, right? We're not talking.
Zionist.
Yeah, exactly. We're not talking about. I'm sorry for saying Jewish because that's really a misnomer. First of all, so few people even know how to define Jewish to begin with. People start biting their tongue and fumbling, and that's something you're not even supposed to talk about or mention. But actually, going back to etymology and definitions, Jewish is just somebody that follows a religion, period. So you don't have to be bloodline. You don't have to be a Zionist to be a religious Jew. Jewish is technically, for technicality, for specific wordage, it's just following the religion, right? And then you have Hebrews, which are actually your bloodline, the actual blood religion. So you might have Hebrews that aren't Jewish, right? Maybe they just converted to Christianity, or maybe they became atheist, right? Maybe they became, I don't know, agnostic, whatever. Scientologists, yeah, whatever. But the whole point is that there's bloodline Hebrews out there, bloodline Hebrews that aren't Jewish, or some of them are, whatever. I don't even know how you would even have a blood test to determine such a thing, really, honestly. But that's another thing that we're getting into. We're getting into a whole rabbit hole there. But and just to wrap up this side tangent about the Jews, because we're talking about the Israelis. Then you got the Zionists, right? The last point being is a Zionist is that which neither has to be a Jew. A Zionist doesn't have to be someone that practices Judaism. They don't have to be, and they don't have to be a Hebrew either. They don't have to be a bloodline Hebrew. All Zionism is if you believe that supposedly people that call themselves Jews, people that supposedly follow the religion of Judaism, have a right to have their own country. Then their own political regime, their own national border, sovereign, their own sovereignty, their exclusionary, state. Then yeah, you're a Zionist. So you can be all three. You can just be one. You can be a combination of some. And that's a real mind fuck, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. That's a real mind trick because so many people are confused on that aspect. So as far as Israelis, filming it, yeah, we're talking about people with the nationality of Israeli, even though they look Russian and stuff, right? All white and redheaded. So those are major issues that we see for the day of. And probably the main issue, honestly, and this one is for all sections in time, is World Trade Center Building 7, the third skyscraper to collapse, in New York in the World Trade Center's complex on September 11th.
And it's funny, not a whole lot of the American population even knows that this building fell. Why do you think that is, Rich? Why do you think most people
probably the same reason that most people don't understand what the word liberal or coercion mean, or government or law. Yeah, probably the same reason for that. But yeah, World Trade Center Building 7, you guys really need to look this up. What was in this building? The different government agencies that had their New York headquarters in this particular building, World Trade Center Building 7. Because if you remember, World Trade Center Building 7 was actually run publicly until a 99-year lease, public lease, was done. And check this out, ladies and gentlemen, July 26, 2001. And on July 26, 2001, a mere 2-3 months, you know, two and a half, not even 2 months, dude. I mean, less than 2 months. I mean, 2.5 months there. I mean, less than 2 months, 1.5 months. Uh, Larry Silverstein acquired the property. It went from being a public funded thing, where obviously the government would use a lot of those office buildings and all that office space, to being a private thing, a private run complex in 2001. So that is just nuts. As far as a change on that, I mean, when you consider that Building 7, came straight down, was the third building at the World Trade Center complex, skyscraper, that came down in its own footprint, just like the Twin Towers, wasn't hit by an airplane, had a couple sporadic fires in it, which they blamed on the diesel, heating system and engines, that it had in there, for water heating and all that, I guess. And they blamed the collapse on that, just a couple fires on some floors. And even though there's footage on YouTube of them having a countdown for Building 7 coming down, the firefighters are telling people to move back, move back, move back, and you hear the countdown, and the building goes straight down. And that one wasn't even like the World Trade Center, where the dust cloud, all the building, came apart into dust. No, that one was straight up demolition. And the thing we got to ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, is how do you set up a building for demolition the day of? Right? How do you do that? You must have done it beforehand. That explains the dogs, right, being pulled out. And get this. This is the eerie part. Larry Silverstein, PBS documentary, actually admitted on camera. So you have the firefighters, telling people to move back the countdown on camera. You have Larry Silverstein on camera admitting that they decided to go ahead and pull the building. Go ahead and destroy it. Pull it. Go ahead and pull it. It's a demolition term. So, and they denied it, of course. They denied it. They actually literally said that, it meant, pulling people out. We got to pull people out of there because it was dangerous or whatever. But, there's a countdown. Yeah, they pulled people out, all right, because they pulled the building, Yeah, and it's a double pull.
Double pull, double sword, double cut.
Yeah, yep. So, you can't set up a building for demolition the day of, and they can't even admit to that. And there was a Freudian slip of, George Bush on camera where, it's an audio clip, and he says, this is, it's not altered. I mean, it's pretty legit. I mean, he says that there was, the terrorists who put the bombs in the building. Freudian slip. There was no bombs in the building. Just the planes, right? So it's interesting. It's just crazy, it's mind-boggling how these things can happen before our faces, and no one cares. No one seems to care, and there's huge campaigns, even bigger campaigns for anarcho-capitalism and agorism. I don't see banners for anarcho-capitalism yet, in New York City, but you see big ass banners for question World Trade Center Building 7, right? Look up World Trade Center Building 7. Look that up. There's big ass banners for that, and it's still not, catching flame because people are afraid. People, yeah, they'll talk about it in private, but how many people are willing to go to the streets? How many people are willing to go on YouTube? How many people are willing to tell their local police department, their local SWAT?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. Whether it's anarchy you're promoting, whether it's capitalism, whether it's exposing government corruption, it needs to be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, that basically wraps up what the day of, off the top of our head, we took these notes a little earlier, but that's as many things that that we think are pretty astounding, pretty telling of what might have happened that day. At least we're not being told the full story here for sure. Some of the things that came to pass after the attacks that are very suspicious. Michael Moore, that guy, let's bring him up again. He doesn't believe 9/11 was an inside job. He doesn't at all. But he admits on his documentary, and documents it pretty well, that the whole Bin Laden family, other than Osama bin Laden himself, of course, right, the terrorist ringleader of Al Qaeda, but his whole family, Osama bin Laden, the Bin Laden family, was flown out of the United States. It was too. They were too much of a political asset. It would have been too much of a riot, right? White people would have been going nuts if you had the old, Obama,
No problem.
the Bin Laden family, up in here. People would have been going nuts, but they flew them out. Literally, that whole those couple of days when the planes were everyone was grounded and no one was allowed to fly. Yeah, no one's allowed to fly except for the military, except for high level bureaucrats, and oh yeah, the Bin Laden family. Yeah, they're allowed to fly and get out of here, get out of the country, take their assets with them, Burger King style.
Burger King style. Well, we're taking this with us.
Oh, and something that came to mind: the Carlyle Group. Look that up. Carlyle Group, a military arms and selling group corporation. That guess who owns the most stock in it? The Bin Laden family and the Bush family. Dun 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 dun.
Dun dun.
Could it be that maybe economic incentives is enough to organize, the mass slaughter of a couple thousand in order to make a couple million, a couple billion? Is it worth it? I don't know. Probably if you're a cold-hearted statist. Yeah. Yeah, so, quit waving your Chinese American flags on 9/11, right? Quit crying for this whatever, the people, right? And if you want to seriously do something for those lives that were slaughtered, start to investigate what happened, right? Start researching and opening up your brain to this information, because the media does talk about it, but they'll talk about it, they'll mention it on this side little article on the back pages of the newspaper, and that once 1 week out of the year, and that's it. And if you only come across it if you got your eyes to see, and you're using your objective brain that freaking evolution or God gave you or whatever the heck you believe. Come on now, what are you? You still a freaking monkey? Like, you know what I'm saying? What are you? What kind of God were you made in the image of? The spaghetti monster? Like,
The spaghetti.
because you got fucking noodles in your brain, bro. You got fucking noodles in your brain. Wake up. But it's just pissing me off, dude. I mean, think of how many lives were killed, I mean, it's ridiculous. How many lives are being killed because of this? I don't know. We'll get into my random. I'm gonna start yelling here after we read these, man. I'm just gonna, let it loose. But the Bin Laden family gets to fly out. Yeah, nice. The rubble from the collapse, all the rubble, right? Oh, we can't have an investigation. No. We can't have local forensic teams and impartial investigators check out and analyze this data. No. We have to ship out all this rubble to China and India. Let's go ahead and ship it out. And you know what? To make sure it gets to China and India, we'll GPS every single truckload of it that goes to the dock to make sure we got every bit of it. Because we can't get busted for this. They literally sent out all the rubble, as much as they could do it, of it to China and to India. What a joke! What a joke! You look at the pictures of the rubble when they're looking for people and they're scrounging through all the rubble. The firefighters, the people, the volunteers that were going out there, right? And there's these perfectly cut beams in the picture. Look at the support beams standing in the rubble. They're cut at literally 45-degree angle, a perfect 45-degree angle, the whole beam, symmetrically. By the way, multiple beams. I mean, it's just, come on now. I mean, that is exactly what they do in a demolition. They cut the support beams with high intensity, high incendiary military grade burners.
To weaken the infrastructure of the building.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, they do this to large scale buildings before demolition.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course. Anything big like that, you can't. It's too much of a insurance asset to just have it tip over. Like your dumbass redneck don't calculate the the tree that you're chopping down correctly, and it ends up busting your half your entertainment, room, like, falling on the house and stuff. Like, I mean, you can't have that. So yeah, they definitely, this is something they do. Um, Interestingly enough, none of the surrounding buildings, none of the hotels, the Hyatt, received any substantial damage. Um, the commission put in charge of investigating the September 11 attacks, if y'all recall. Not only did it take a while to get that going, that I think that was over a year just to get everyone on the board, and just all that mumbo jumbo, red tape, bureaucratic mumbo jumbo. But you have the commissioners saying that the investigation was a fraud, a sham from the get go, was totally controlled. On I don't know if before testimony. I don't know about the commissioners exactly before testimony, but definitely before you know you know talks or whatnot, when people ask them these questions, before the media, right? Um, and the commission. Come on now, the government didn't officially explain World Trade Center Building 7 until 7 years after the event. The original report of the commission didn't even mention World Trade Center 7, except for a few phrases about it. And I don't remember exactly what it said. I'm sorry, but they barely even mentioned it. Barely mentioned it. 7 years later, if you recall, they explained it. Oh yeah, World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed because of thermal expansion. It just those those little minute fires that were burning expanded the support beam so much in this other skyscraper that it just caused itself to fall in on itself. Like, really? Like, you think we're idiots? You think it's just hilarious? You know what I'm saying? Minute fires, office fires, burning on carbon. We're talking about temperatures here that are in your stove when you heat up a pizza, and in your engine, in your combustion engine, in the combustion chamber, right? I mean, come on now. I mean, what engine blocks melting left and right? Your stove melting in the middle of your kitchen. What a sham. What a sham. And remember Larry Silverstein? Remember that guy that got bought the lease up on the World Trade Center building, July 26, 2001. This guy, this sleaze bag, got, how much did he get here? $4.6 billion out of the insurance policy. $4.6 billion. Sat on it for a month and a half. Brand new insurance policy for a month and a half, and get $4.6 billion. Not only that, but this sleazeball, this murderer, just like everybody else that was complicit in this, whether it be high military guard or foreign intelligence agencies, or the executive branch and all of Congress, and just everybody complicit in this. This sleazeball, this Larry Silverstein guy, is seeking another 12.3 billion, ladies and gentlemen, from the airline industry, because they didn't do a sufficient job in ensuring that this wouldn't happen. 12.3 billion. How much? And I don't even know if he won that settlement or not. I don't think he did. But I mean, imagine if he would have gotten that. I mean, that, how much would flight tickets, airline tickets go up at that point? Right? I mean, just another way to leech off the productive class is this Larry Silverstein guy, seeking the government to extract money from corporations, which they know are only going to pass down the prices to their consumers, to their customers. And with all that insider trading going, I mean, you can make money off of that too, right? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, the justification. I mean, we had the Patriot Act come in. How long after 9/11 did the Patriot Act come in? A couple months, 2 months? They couldn't even wait. They didn't even. Congress admits, the Senate admits that they didn't even. Members of Congress and the Senate admit that they didn't even read it. Oh, we didn't read that. The majority of your so-called representatives voted for it, and they didn't even read it. It was actually already there. It was ready to go. The whole 2,500 page bill, out of couple thousand pages in fine legal print, yay, already ready to go prior to 9/11. Convenient. And the Military Commissions Act. I mean, you just had it all. You have all these different acts coming in, right? All these different justifying, being able to strip people of their citizenship, justifying military tribunals once you're stripped of your citizenship, justifying spying on you, whether it's your phone records, whether it's your emails, whether it's your personal mail, whether it's your medical records, your library records, your financial records, right? Right? Hey, it's coming, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming. They're gonna blame Bitcoin, and they're gonna blame Tor, and these alternative cryptocurrency, crypto anarchy, solutions. They're going to say that ISIS, and they're going to say these terrorists are using these things. Get ready for it. It's coming. It's coming. They're demonizing us already. All you really got to type in is ISIS flag on Google, and look through those pictures on there. Look at who they're demonizing. They're trying to associate anarchism, specifically crypto anarchism and anarcho-capitalism. Keep your eyes open and look for it. To ISIS. We actually had that happen today. And this ties in because it's about demonizing any kind of resistance, any kind of authoritarian, anti-military, anti-government mentality. It's to get rid of that. That's why they needed these terrorist attacks, to give themselves militaristic powers against the American people. This is the nature of the state, right? I don't know why so many ANCAPs are so afraid to tackle these issues, right? It's usually the truthers that have come to anarcho-capitalism that are more into this stuff, obviously, because they came from that aspect. But I just don't understand why, if you're a philosophy geek only, or in the economics alone. I mean, all this stuff is documented. You can look up what official statements, what they were doing at those moments. I mean, you can look up what the official, where they were at that day, at that time, what they officially said. All that is on file. It's on record. So it's you're being objective about it. You're not just, this isn't hashing out conspiracy theories. Oh, maybe it was holograms, or maybe it was nukes in the building, or aliens, or no. Don't, right? We're not David Icke here. We're not. This isn't Infowars and Alex Jones, right? We try to up it up a little bit,
We're far from that.
We try to bring a little bit more objectivity into the situation, and look at things for what they are. And that is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. You look at the state for what it is, and this is what it is, right? We know it's murder, destruction, plunder. We know that in order to maintain their power, it's through violence. But it's more of a mental thing. Even Rothbard called that out, right? Because in the end, you need to get the belief of your servants to actually genuinely believe that they need you, right? If you're just always whipping them and controlling them, well, they know that you're the slave master and that they're slaves. You don't really get too much production out of people like that, right? But it starts, you start to make some headway when you allow them to to be free, and when you keep those scary boogeymen, underneath every single rug, behind every door, underneath every pillow. Ooh, the scary, ISIS, Al Qaeda, the immigrants, they're crossing the border. Right? The Black Panthers. Yeah, I mean, come on now, guys. I mean, I would rather deal with ISIS. I would rather deal with, Bin Laden and his wasabi goons, grunts, brainwashed radicals on my own, than deal with the U.S. government. The worst thing that the Muslim, these Muslim extremists could have done for the Muslim people was attack the biggest military force in the world. Right? That was pretty dumb of them, right? If they wanted to change America, they did it. They won in that sense, but they definitely had to pay a big price. Millions and millions of lives have been lost as a result of 9/11 and the wars caused because of 9/11, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is the excuse. I mean, how many countries have we invaded thus far in the Middle East? And we're going back in there now because of ISIS and because they might be a terrorist threat? Come on now. We know who pulled off the terrorism. I mean,
I mean,
You know,
we don't gotta spell it out anymore.
we don't have to spell it out anymore. I mean, we called out the whole list. I mean, listen to the episode, listen to other shows, check out Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, AE 9/11 Truth, AE 911 truth.org. Architects and engineers, way more credible than I am, right? They have degrees. They're genuine architects debating the state-run, right? The court architects and the state-run engineers, right? You have look up what I'm sorry, I forgot their name. Crap. We Are Change. We Are Change, New York, right? An organization started started it in the name of exposing these atrocities, and in particular, going up to these people, whether it's Larry Silverstein, the leaseholder of the World Trade Center complex, whether it's Joe Biden, vice president at the moment, whether it's Hillary Clinton, whether it's anybody in government, and confronting them, especially people that were directly involved, confronting them about these things. And you should see their faces. They are deers caught in the headlight. They are whimpering little. It's like when a kid gets caught doing something bad, or you can just see it in their face, and they run off, afraid, deadly, scared, ghastly, frightened.
Hmm.
And so definitely check that out. I mean, come on now. I mean, there's just testimony upon testimony, whether congressional, there's footage, there's the actual events of the day, there's all these confrontations, with these high officials that were involved. There's all these different acts, and laws that were in executive orders that were passed as a result of these attacks. And then there's the demonization, right, of any kind of anti-government rhetoric, anti-government mentality. You can demonize that now. And again, I'm suggesting that you guys check out ISIS. Just type in ISIS flag, look at the Google images, and they're trying to connect, Tor, and they're trying to connect, just anarchism in general. Because these ISIS guys are using a black flag with Arabic writing on it. They're trying to associate that with us guys. I mean, come on now. We gotta wake up to this, and we gotta be vocal about the fact that we're nonviolent. That our objective is not to overthrow, is not to have a revolution, is not to have a bloodbath. Our objective is to opt out. We simply want to opt out, disassociate, form our own contracts, form our own society without having to be their grunts. We have every right to flex that, and we're not doing anything to them at that point. We're not being treasonous. You see what I'm saying? Because treason is defined by trying to take their power. And all we're saying is, no, we're not taking your power. We're just not giving it to you anymore. Sorry about that. But
You gotta clear out the bubbles, right?
well, it's just, dude. I mean, should have been drinking some water. I mean, we were yelling earlier today, and it's just ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get some footage this Thursday. It's gonna be some really interesting footage. Actually, I think it should be pretty good. This Thursday. We'll upload that A.C.T. and I guess we'll put it on this thread, on the Agora Underground, and we'll put it on different threads. But again, we do appreciate you guys listening. This was the Agora Underground. Guys, keep researching, keep being passionate about things that you are, you are personally convinced to be true, and be open to new information, new ideas, and let's have we need guts, we need brains, and we need heart, right? And let's put all those things together. Anarchy, Agora, action, ladies and gentlemen. Catch you on the flip.
Ladies, y'all.